Welcome back to Select Start Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Ace, back with the usual suspects. Kosher Killer, looking like he's positioning himself well for the C-Max sweepstakes next year. How you doing, bro?
Ready for that consolation bracket, fellas.
Big Baller Ed, it's always a pleasure having you. You're still trying to crack the 5-win code. How you doing, man?
One of these days, I might actually start trusting my legit options and stop trying to play waiver wire fodder.
You and Ian both, man. And speaking of Ian, we've got the Ganesh. Nye, how we doing, bro?
I don't play many waiver wire guys all that often, do I? No. I think I've had to,
Maybe earlier in the season.
Can I just apologize to Michael Thomas owners for kind of jinxing it last week? I'd just like to first and foremost apologize to all you Michael Thomas owners out there. I jumped the gun, thought he was going to play, and kind of jinxed it.
Yeah, Who Dat Nation is not having it. Yeah. All right, cool. Week 7 is toast, y'all. We're getting close to the halfway point of the season. The trend of big name guys going down week after week did not let us down this week, unfortunately. So per usual, we'll start the show with Kosher Killer. He'll get us caught up with the casualties of this weekend, most notably OBJ, Landon Collins, Chris Godwin's, amongst many others. Kosher Killer.
So OBJ has a torn ACL. He is done for the year. Landon Collins, torn Achilles, also out for the year. Most likely Cameron Curl is going to fill in for Collins. I'd look for Jarvis Landry to be the primary target in Cleveland's passing game. Chris Godwin is missing this week with a broken left index finger. He is considered week to week. They may try and play him next week. Now for a trio of 49ers. Both Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. are injured as far as the running backs go. The timeline on those is 3 to 6 weeks. So the midpoint would be, say, 4 to 5 weeks. Jeff Wilson Jr. has a high ankle sprain. He's being put on injured reserve. He's missing at least the next 3 games, which may mean that's JaMychal Hasty's time to shine in the San Francisco running game. The last part of the Niners trio is Deebo Samuel. He has a hamstring injury. He's missing at least the next 2 games against Seattle and against Green Bay because of the short week. So you're looking for guys like Brandon Ayuk. Staying with the NFC West, Kenyon Drake tore a ligament in his ankle. The Cardinals are treating this like a high ankle sprain, so he's likely out 4 to 6 weeks. This week is their bye, so he's missing 3 to 5 games. Chase Edmonds would likely be the lead running back there. And lastly, to finish out a rough week for the NFC West for injuries, Chris Carson has a midfoot sprain and is listed as week to week. Given the injuries to Seattle's running backs, you may want to look at DJ Dallas stepping in this week against San Francisco.
Thank you very much, Coach Killer. Let's just go over the notable ones. Let's start with OBJ. Talk about the effect on that offense the OBJ injury has going forward. I'll start with you, Nye.
Honestly, it's a huge injury. And I know a lot of people will point to OBJ's numbers and say, well, he wasn't playing that well this year. But a lot of things, when we were talking about football, a lot of things factor into other guys' production. And OBJ does a lot for a lot of other guys to get off and play well. You're going to see a lot more stacked boxes for Kareem Hunt. And when Nick Chubb comes back, you're going to see teams loading up on the run now, because now you don't really have that over-the-top threat. It does a lot for a lot of other components in that Cleveland team. I think if you're rostering them, Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins, at this point, you're probably rolling with them. But I would really look at the matchups. They literally just become matchup plays from here on out.
Big Baller, if you were an OBJ owner, your guy goes down, who would you be looking at on that offense to replace him, man?
I'm not looking on that offense, honestly. I do think Rashard Higgins, after that performance last week, has bought himself a week. But early reports throughout the season did not suggest that this coaching staff was looking to expand his role. I think they were forced to put in the guy who they've had for a couple of years. When OBJ went down, that wasn't expected. That wasn't the game plan. They had to adjust. I think he's got a 1-week leash, though. They weren't happy with him earlier in the season. They were trying to take a look at Donovan Peoples-Jones, who they took in this last year's draft, trying to see what they have in that. I wouldn't be surprised to try to find out more what they have in that. But I'm not looking at this team. It's still a run-first team. They just lost their best receiving threat. My go-to, I would look at other teams. Brandon Ayuk is a name that I would think about.
Kosher, jump in here.
I'm really curious to see what this means for Baker Mayfield's development as a quarterback. I think there's been an issue of him trying to force the ball to OBJ a little bit. And now that he doesn't have OBJ, can he simplify his game, find an open guy, even if it's not his first read? If he can, I think that's going to help guys like Higgins. It's going to help guys like People Jones. It's going to help guys like Jarvis Landry. But if he can't, it's going to be another long year to be a Browns fan because they're going to become a one-dimensional team. And teams in the NFL are good enough to beat one-dimensional teams pretty handily week in, week out.
To just pick it back up off Ian's point, it'll be interesting to see like the better defenses they play and how they adjusted them loading up the box and how that affects Baker. The early returns, you saw him play great. He had one of his best fantasy outings of the year. So we'll see. The jury's out. We'll keep our eye on that situation. I'm going to skip over to the Kenyon Drake injury. Fire up Edmonds or no?
Yep. I'm firing up Edmonds.
There are some fantasy owners out there that got a goodie. Jump in here, Nye.
No, that's the truth, man. You just hit on it. Like, I think before the season, we had Kenyon Drake going pretty low in our mock draft. I don't think I was a fan. Were you a fan, Big Baller? I don't think you were either. Really. We kind of all recognized Chase Edmonds was the better back in this offense. And going back to last year, it was pretty evident to see. I think, if you lucked in and you have Chase Edmonds sitting on your bench, I think you're in a great position. I honestly don't think this is an injury Kenyon Drake's going to be able to fully recover from this year. He's going to have lingering side effects, going into the end of the season. I think Chase Edmonds is the lead back in this offense from here on out.
They say you can't lose your job to injury, but, man, it's a tough break for Kenyon Drake, but definitely an opportunity for Chase Edmonds. Jump in here, Big Baller.
I think Chase Edmonds was taking the opportunity long before Kenyon Drake went down. Prior to this week, I was coming into this week. Seattle was the primetime game. I knew I'd be able to catch it, and I wanted to see what it looked like when Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake touched the ball. Chase Edmonds has already been more productive from a fantasy point of view, almost this whole season. So I wanted to see what was going on, and it's just that Chase Edmonds can catch the ball a lot better than Kenyon Drake can. He gets the ball in places where he has a lot of open space, and Kenyon Drake just keeps running right into the line, which wasn't really working that great for him. You can say it's Kenyon Drake. Chase Edmonds does break off some nice runs, but I think he was losing his job regardless. Chase Edmonds was already going to be somebody who I was targeting because I thought as long as people think that he's the number 2 option in this offense at the running back position, you might be able to buy him cheap. But the moment Kenyon Drake went down, it became evident that Chase Edmonds would step into a larger role, but I think he was already the back you wanted to own in this offense.
Absolutely. Very scary to see that efficiency paired with, the newfound volume he's inheriting. Was there something else you wanted to mention? No.
And if you had traded Kenyon Drake a few weeks ago after his big game, who'd they play? Was it Dallas? It was Dallas, right? Yeah, his big game after Dallas. Then you're not really worried about this situation. Should have sold Kenyon Drake when you had the shot. Chase Edmonds is obviously the better back in this lineup.
This is why you practice foresight in fantasy football. Deebo Samuel. Let's talk about Deebo Samuel. I feel like we talk about him every week. Every week he kind of nicked up. Kosher, you're the 49er affiliate. Walk us through it.
I'm definitely picking up Ayuk. I don't know that I drop Deebo because he's still productive when he is on the field. But you also wonder how long is he going to be out? We know he's missing at least 2 games. I assume with the hamstring, you don't want to rush it. So I'd assume you're looking closer to 4 to 5 weeks with the injury. I think he's worth keeping, but he's also going to be on an IR spot. I have a feeling it's a little bit longer than 2 games.
Jump in here, Nye.
No, I think it's 2 games. I think with the short week after, I think it complicates things in order to bring a guy back with a hamstring injury like that as quickly as he would want to or they would want to. Honestly, think it's 2 games at the most. It didn't look like all that bad. I'm not going to diagnose the guy's injury and how fast he can get back. But I think their timeline is about correct here. I think it's around 2 weeks because you figure it's going to be he's going to have 2 weeks, off. He'll probably be some sort of limited participant in practice over the next few weeks or towards the latter end of the 2 weeks. Yeah, I fully expect him to be back. I'm a Deebo Samuel owner, so I don't feel like it sucks to not have him this week after he played pretty well last night. You can kind of see him rounding back into shape.
I'm honestly going to say if you're in a shallower league, I'm a Deebo owner in a league with 4 bench spots, he's a drop. He absolutely is. There's options that you can pick up. Debo's going to miss 3 weeks, not to injury, but to the bye, waiting on that 3rd week. So know that that's in line. Brandon Ayuk, I think, is a high-quality pickup. He's performed before, and I think that coming back, Debo is coming off a Liz Frank from this offseason. Liz Frank is one of those funkier little injuries. I just don't like to mess around with those. Specifically, foot injuries don't really like to heal up well. They like to leave lingering issues throughout your legs that usually take a little bit more than that year of actual recovery to really recover from. Debo could be nicked up for the rest of this year. Ayuk is not. He just isn't. And he's performed with Debo in the lineup. I think that you take it a little easier on Debo's production. You know what you can do with him. You know when you need him for. Debo's out on shallower leagues. In deeper leagues, I don't think you can trade him. I don't think anyone's going to buy him off you.
It'll be interesting. I think another thing that kind of goes over our head is, I mean, you mentioned the injury history with Debo Samuel. But also, if he misses 2 games and say they lose the 2 games, is it worth maybe rushing a guy like Debo back, considering how you utilize him? He's a big physical kind of guy. Is it worth it at that point in their season? And, season's kind of lost to rush, one of the pillars for your future back into the offense.
I got to say, honestly, I'm going in on Carlos' side this week. If I'm at need of a running back, I think that what you would have seen against Arizona, San Francisco's a different matchup, but Carlos Hyde will do more than fine enough in this offense, and he's going to get the majority of the touches. DJ Dallas and Travis Homer were both active for last game. Carson went out early, and the touches went to Carlos Hyde, and I didn't see anything from DJ Dallas or Travis Homer on the field that would have won them playing time from the week into going into next week. So it's either something they're doing in practice, but man, I think Carlos Hyde is the back you want. I think it's a hamstring injury, but watching the game, if anybody remembers, please let me know when it was that he went down, because I kind of felt that he finished it out, and I didn't hear about the injury until the next day. So I'm not worried about this hamstring tightness, is what they're calling it. For Carlos Hyde, I think he's the back this week. I think Chris Carson's still out for at least one week more, and that's if you have Carlos Hyde while Chris Carson's out. If you're the Carson owner, this is the guy you need to grab.
Top performers. Now that we're done with all the bad news, let's get into it. There were a lot of big scores this week. Tyler Lockett was a cheat code Sunday night, logging over 200 yards off 15 receptions, 3 touchdowns, and a 55-point performance. That had to have been a record. I'm going to do the research. I'll get back to you guys on that. Devontae Adams almost joined him. He wasn't too far behind him. He posted a 13 for 196, 2-touchdown stat line. A couple of QB mentions. Kyler Murray shined in prime time at 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then the GOAT, I mean, we've been mentioning him for the last few weeks. I have to mention him, man. Tom Brady, we're going to give his roses, man. He's 42 years old. He's still dominating. He threw for another 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers. Man, this guy's killing it. I'll swing it back to you guys. Top performers, Big Baller Ed.
My first top performer, I'm going to start with a guy on defense. We do like to talk a little bit of IDP. So I'm going to hit you guys up with Jerry Hughes, linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. If you don't know Jerry Hughes, he's been in the league for a little while. But this season hasn't been the most terribly impressive. But Week 7's stat line is at least worth noting. 6 tackle, 2 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 1 interception for Jerry Hughes. At least for one day, he was a top performer. So it's worth noting. Jerry Hughes.
Nice. Top performers.
You know what? This week, I'm just going to be proactive and eat the crow right now. I'm just going to eat the crow right now. Justin Herbert, he's bringing me around. Yeah, I said it. He's bringing me around. 27 for 43, 347. He had 3 touchdowns, 9 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown on the ground against Jacksonville. He balled out. He was everything you wanted out of this matchup and probably a little bit more. Justin Herbert, man, I had a trade for him earlier this year and I nixed it. I'm regretting that. But also, I'd like to also note Deontay Johnson, 15 targets. He had 9 catches for 80 yards, 2 touchdowns in that win against Tennessee. 15 targets is an absurd amount of targets to garner. And just like to honorably mention, I mentioned the Washington football team last week and going out and getting all the football team players you could. Kyle Allen went out and had 2 TDs. Antonio Gibson had a huge day. Terry McLaurin had a big day as well, and that defense racked up 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a safety, along with an interception.
Shaquille,
Had a lot to
top
be.
performers, sir.
Man, Justin Herbert and his Disney Channel's Adventures of Zach and Cody looking self, he did ball out. Speaking of other rookie quarterbacks who balled out, Joe Burrow, 35 of 47, over 400 yards, 3 scores and a pick. Another rookie, James Robinson, 22 carries, 119 yards and a score. Jeff Wilson Jr., who unfortunately just got hurt, 17 carries, 112 yards, 3 touchdowns. And last but certainly not least, A.J. Brown on Tennessee, 6 catches for 153 yards and a score.
I got to give you your credit, Big Baller. You've been the sole Jeff Wilson advocator on the pod. Your man doesn't disappoint. When he gets the volume, he gives you more. He gives you more. Jeff Wilson, absolutely. And you're eating that crow. Bro, I'm looking at the whole AFC West like very closely come draft time for the next 3 years to see how many safeties and cornerbacks are taken in the early rounds, because you've got Mahomes, you've got Carr in their offense, they're going to be throwing it around. You've got Herbert, all of a sudden he's becoming a force. Man, that AFC West is becoming competitive very quickly.
You're just going to admit Drew Lock?
Yes, absolutely.
His offensive line already does.
Not even mentioned. Who's throwing passes in Denver? Melvin Gordon?
He's not there yet. He's not there yet. But, once Drew Lock does his thing, he's going to get his roses. Last week, we had 2 big free agent deals with Le'Veon Bell headed to the Chiefs, Antonio Brown being acquired by the Tampa Bay Bucks. Antonio Brown, AB, has yet to join his team, but Le'Veon played. What do you guys think of his performance and some of his early returns of his split between him and CH? I'll start with you, Nye.
Well, actually, you're getting to my pick 2 category, but I'm gonna give it to you now. No, I thought he looked good. I thought in the limited action that he was able to get in there, after only being there for like a week, 6.5 yards per carry. He looked explosive. He had a couple plus 15-yard runs. There's not much to really like hang on to. I think this week with him playing the Jets and, Eric Bieniemy saying, he's going to get Le'Veon some primetime touches. So, I think you have a lot to look forward to moving forward into this Jets game.
Big Baller, you're the CAH owner. What'd you see?
I honestly just saw a Le'Veon Bell that I'm excited to have join this offense. That really is what I saw. I saw Le'Veon Bell playing with some smoothness, some explosiveness, and taking up some yardage. But as a CEH owner, I'm also not terribly worried. Like, this is not someone who I think is going to be coming and taking CEH's work. I think that this is somebody who's coming in and is filling a role that they want in this offense. So a role that CEH wasn't filling up until this point and was still being productive regardless of. So this excites me for Le'Veon Bell. As a CEH owner, I am not worried, guys. He's a every week play. He's going in my lineup. I love that I have.
Hey, he got in the end zone, so that's what's up.
He's giving you what you want, people.
That was the worry, right? Le'Veon was going to come in and get those red zone touchdowns that CEH wasn't giving. Hey, CEH got in the end zone, and he ran through like 4 Jets defenders to get there. Shout out
Denver
CEH.
defenders.
Denver
defenders.
Denver defenders. My bad. They've got the Jets next week. If you got CEH, fire him up.
Every week.
Every week. All right, pick 2, guys. Are we firing up Ben DiNucci? No, like low-key. Like, I pretty much
as the only person
I called that.
As the only person to roster him last week, in the entire,
I literally rostered him
in the entire world. Like, are you gonna fire Ben DiNucci this week? Now would be the time. Like, you called it last week. You were talking about how Ben DiNucci was only a play away. Yeah, I'd say you play him.
I play you. If I beat you with Ben DiNucci, you can never come back to me. You can never come back, bro.
That's a one fab investment right there. Ace had Ben DiNucci all lined up the whole time.
Pick 2, 1 offense, 1 defense from the waiver wire. You guys are going to call for week 8.
Awesome. We just talked about the Dallas offense, and my first pick 2, I decided I wanted to target that offense. My pick 2 is Derek Barnett. He's had a couple semi-productive games towards the later stretch of this half of the season, but he's a defensive lineman playing against Dallas, and I love that. So I'm firing up Derek Barnett. I was debating between him and Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat had a little bit more production earlier in the season, but his snaps have kind of fallen off. So I said Derek Barnett's going to be on the field longer. That's just longer that he has to hit the quarterback and whoever's in that backfield. Derek Barnett's my pick 2, followed up by Nelson Aguilar. I wasn't actually too excited about Nelson Aguilar until I just kind of looked at the waiver wire. And then I thought to myself, I could use Nelson Aguilar this week. He's playing against Cleveland. Cleveland's a really good matchup right now. Greedy Williams is still out. They've got a few injuries in their I believe their safety right now is still injured. Abrams, I believe is one of the Abrams. I might be wrong. But their safety he's hampered. He's been a little bit injured for the last couple weeks. So they're not fully healthy, and Aguilar has slightly increased target share, but I'm more interested in Derek Carr continuing to have a pretty solid season and Nelson Aguilar finding his way into the end zone one more time. Do it for me. I called 4 earlier in the season and I missed on it with Marlon Humphreys' interceptions. Maybe Nelson Aguilar can be the 4 that I'm waiting on. Nelson Aguilar is my pick 2. Him and Derek Barnett. Get those matchups, guys.
Great picks. Hey, you get Lamar Jackson versus Derek Carr next week. Hey, and the saga
Circled
continues.
on my calendar.
That's what's up. Nye, pick 2, brother.
You know what? I just like to say, me and Big Baller didn't talk at all about this pick 2 segment, and we are right in line because literally he took Barnett off my list, and I just didn't add one person. I added 3 guys. First off, I already talked about Le'Veon Bell. He was going to be one of my pick 2 candidates. I already mentioned his 6.5 yards per carry. It's a revenge game going up against the Jets. Put him in your lineup this week. I'm putting him in my lineup this week because I expect him to have at least 2 touchdowns. Getting over to the defensive side, of course we are targeting the Dallas Cowboys. Of course. I wasn't going to stop after last week. My pick 2 is actually a pick 3 because I put down I have Josh Sweat. He has 3 sacks this season, 2 forced fumbles, going up against the Dallas Cowboys in their depleted offensive line. Derek Barnett with his 3.5 sacks, and that defensive line rotation for Philadelphia is going to get after the quarterback. And another guy who kind of goes a little bit under the radar, Nathan Gary. He has no less than 7 tackles in every game played this year. He has played every game for the Philadelphia Eagles this year. He's a guy who's kind of all over the field. I expect all of these guys to have good days and even a sneaky play in Darius Slay.
That Eagles defense, everyone's going to be trying to get a piece of that pie this weekend. Kosher Killer, pick 2.
I want to let the listeners know that I didn't talk to Big Baller. I didn't talk to Ian about my pick 2 guys, which would have been really weird had I actually chosen the players they talked, but I got 2 different guys. Okay. I'm looking at JaMychal Hasty, the running back for the Niners. The Seahawks are middle of the pack against the run. Hasty is going to get sunburn along with McKinnon, along with Coleman. He had 9 carries for 59 yards. I think he's going to get his fair share of touches this week. And defensively, I'm looking at Emmanuel Ogbah from the Dolphins. If we're talking consistent production, the man has been a sack machine, getting at least half a sack in each of his last 5 games. Those are my pick 2 guys.
Yeah, Miami's defense trending up.
Yeah,
maybe not this week, but if you can find them on a good matchup going forward, always a good option. Nice.
Really quick with the changeover to Tua Tagovailoa, it's really going to kind of reset what this passing game looks like. Honestly, I feel like with the way they're matching up, Jalen Ramsey is going to be on the field. This Rams defense is a very good defense. I think Jakeem Grant is a good play this week. If you're in a deep league or if you're looking for somebody who's kind of sneaky. I think Jakeem Grant could be a really, really good play this week. I said Donovan Peoples-Jones last week for the people who kind of play in those kick return leagues where those yards matter, and he actually went out and had a pretty good day after OBJ went down. So I'm gonna call Jakeem Grant this week. I think he can have a pretty good day.
Lastly, keeping that same energy. Last week we pit CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We pit him up against DeAndre Swift. They both did okay. weren't incredibly efficient. They both scored touchdowns, I believe. Swift only had 27 yards on 9 carries. So, yeah, they both did okay. I'm just going to call that one a wash, maybe. This week, I'm picking Joe Burrow up against Baker Mayfield. Both had excellent games in what was a barn burner between the two teams. They put up they combined over 70 points of offense, with Joe Burrow throwing 3 touchdowns. Baker threw 5 touchdowns. Guys, who keeps that same energy this week? I'll start with Nye.
You know what? I like both of these guys. I'm really high on Joe Burrow. I think
this was your idea to put these two up against each other.
He has a bright future. I like everything about Joe Burrow. I think, they're doing the right thing, letting him sling it out. But for the time being, I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. And I think it's not really because I believe he's a better talent. I just think his schedule down the stretch in the immediate and moving forward is just, it lines up pretty well. He gets week 8, he gets Las Vegas, and then he goes on a bye. But then he gets Houston and Philadelphia, Jacksonville, and then week 13 he gets Tennessee. Week 14 he gets a tough matchup against Baltimore, the rematch. Week 15 he gets the Giants. Week 16 he gets the Jets, and week 17 he gets Pittsburgh. So, coming off that 5 TD performance, I think he is in a position to kind of keep his production going with kind of a soft schedule.
And driving that train to Baker Mayfield Island.
I'm in the refreshments cart, just waiting to see what happens.
Coach Killer, who's keeping that same energy?
I got Baker keeping that same energy, planting that flag also in Baker's camp. The Raiders are allowing 12 more yards per completion this year than Tennessee. They've consistently been giving up about 12 yards per completion each of the last 5 years. They're giving up more yardage through the air. They're giving up more scores, especially if you're looking this just short term. Baker Mayfield's keeping that energy.
Okay, 2 for Baker.
2.
And you've been really good about breaking the static up. What's the verdict?
I know what I do, guys. You know where I'm going with this one. I never got on the Baker train. I stayed at the station, and I waited for the Burrow Mobile to come pick me up. And we rode off back into town. I'm not getting off the Burrow train. I like what I see from him. It's high volume, so leagues that count completions, you get punished on those weeks that he's not having good accuracy numbers. But Burrow has consistently been a better quarterback than Baker this season. Baker has consistently not performed against good matchups. So I'm not going to I can't say too much more than stick with Burrow. Burrow's now got more seasoning under him than he did before. He managed to perform against not the easiest lineup of Cass. His touchdown numbers have gone up recently in the last couple of weeks. He's got a healthy wide receiving core. I find it hard to go with a guy who just lost his best receiver, even if it's possible that it makes him a better quarterback. I'm riding with Joe Burrow right back into town, and we're sitting down at the square, ordering a sandwich and a little bit of coffee, and we're admiring the Clyde Edwards-Helaires that are sitting in the window.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hey.
You know what? Can I jump back over? You know what? Can I get the Burrow? Nah, I'm going to stay on. I'm going to stay on the Baker train.
That Baker train moves too fast. It kind of runs out of control sometimes. You might not be able to get off.
Yeah,
right.
It's
a little temperamental. It's a little temperamental.
I think down the stretch you might find a better Baker Mayfield, which is weird to say. I think he might play better.
Yeah. That's going to do it for our show. Our Week 7 recap. Week 8, guys. Primer. Any final thoughts for the viewers?
I've got one extra top performer for next week. Philadelphia Eagles DST against the Dallas Cowboys might be in the 20-point range. So that could be a top performer, guys.
Yeah, go grab all those Eagles, man. Yep. Jalen Reagor's coming off the IR. So, hey, if you're in a deeper league or you're looking for somebody, just a dart throw, Jalen Reagor could be a guy like that. Yeah, load up all your Eagles. Harrison Bryant, the Cleveland Browns. He's the real deal.
I'm just going to rant that somehow the Dallas Cowboys Eagles game is the Sunday night game of the week that everyone's going to get. The NFL really kind of flexed it out for a more competitive or more compelling matchup.
Well, Week 7's in the books, guys. Thanks for joining us again today. Make sure you guys like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Shout out Sleeper. And we're out, man.
I'd also say, man, leave your any questions in the comment sections. If you guys have anything about trades, waiver wire pickups, We're here to answer all your questions. If you have anything, for next week you're worried about, start, sit advice, man, we're here for you. Hit us up on the channel. We'll answer your questions.